Hey babe, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm Treasure, your new favorite mental health girly. Welcome babe. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos. Welcome back to episode 2 of Depression Diaries. If you missed episode 1, I will link it somewhere at the top so you can go back and watch it and then come back and meet us here. First, I do want to give a disclaimer that at some point of this video it could be a little bit triggering, so keep that in mind when you're watching. I will put a trigger warning when I get to that part of the video, just in case you do not want to watch that part. But other than that, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So let's do first a little bit of a recap. In the last video, we left off on I finally accepted that I was depressed. Now, let me just say, one misconception that I myself had in going through depression was the moment I accepted that I was depressed, everything would just be fine. I would go back to normal, I could work through it, and it would be done and over with. Well, spoiler alert, I was depressed for 5 years after the moment I accepted that I was depressed. Now, that is not to say that that is the same for everyone, because it doesn't have to be the same for everyone. Some people can be depressed for a few months, a couple years. Some people may be depressed longer than 5 years. It really is a case-by-case basis, but I do want to say, just because you accept that you are depressed does not mean that everything else just goes back to normal. So, once I accepted that I was depressed, I said to myself, with this acceptance, you have to let someone know that this is what's happening. Because with acceptance came a reality check for me that was basically telling me now is a time that you are going to need to take care of yourself. You cannot be concerned or worried about other people the way that you are. And just in case I haven't talked about this before, I'll do a little bit of a backstory. I have always been someone who put everyone else first. And I'm not talking about just being courteous. I am talking about when they say put the mask on you and then someone else. I am always putting the mask on someone else at the risk of me dying. Like, I've always been that way, and I've always taken pride in being someone who's overly helpful in situations where it probably just isn't necessary for me to be that. But because of that, that is what the people around me are used to. Now, aside from the fact that people can take advantage and just go overboard and know that you're this way and then force you to subconsciously do things that they know probably they shouldn't even be asking of you, it's not 100% on those people, because people do what you allow them to do. But at this time, when I'm accepting something is wrong, I need to fix it, I need help, I can no longer be that person that everyone is used to. And I took it upon myself to write letters to certain people that I was close to at the time, and thinking that it would give them a heads up, an understanding of what I knew as far as I knew, even though I didn't know much, but to share what I knew, and so that they understood that I'm not being the friend that you're used to because you did something wrong, but because I'm going through something and right now I need to focus on myself. This was something that was really hard for me just in general, because like I've said a million times before, I am a private person. I do not like to share anything that I'm going through with anyone. I am extremely private. So being that vulnerable and writing a letter and sharing what I was going through, what I was feeling with people that I thought were my friends was definitely hard for me. Now, one of the people that I wrote the letter to in the beginning seemed to me they were very responsive. They called me every day. They stayed on the phone with me every day, you know, to make sure that I was okay, whatever. Keep in mind, at this time, we're still heavy in COVID. And the other person didn't even acknowledge at first that they got the letter, they read the letter, they understood what I was saying. I had to ask, I want to say maybe a month or two after I had written the letter, did they read it, you know, how they were feeling? And it was basically like, oh yeah, I read it, I love you too. And that was it. Now, it's not that I was expecting some long, drawn out response or explanation, but I felt the bare minimum, you could at least acknowledge that you read it. You could at least acknowledge that you got it. You could acknowledge that, okay, you're going through something, and I understand that you can't be there for me the way that I'm used to. Take care of yourself. Something other than, oh yeah, I got it. Now, the first person that I wrote the letter to, that in the beginning definitely seemed like they were, you know, doing their best, what they could to help, eventually became very clear to me that it was more about, as long as you are able to pick up the phone when I call you because I've got something going on, or stay on the phone with me all day because that's what I want, then I can support you and I can be here for you. But the moment you're not able to do that, then I have a problem. And I was very quickly getting worse after my acceptance. And very quickly, there were a lot of days where I just didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to be around anyone. And I wasn't answering the phone, or I wasn't answering text messages. And quickly saw that these people that I thought were my friends were not. And, you know, disappeared. Haven't talked to them since. Now, I had other friends that I did not share what I was going through with. And the only reason why I told the first two people was because these were people that I was with all the time, every single day. And so I felt like it was my responsibility to let them know that something was going to change, something was going to be different. The other friends that I had, I didn't see very often. I already didn't talk to, you know, a lot. So I didn't divulge to them anything. But they knew that something was wrong. And would just randomly send messages and, hey, are you okay? How are you? And I would just say, oh, I'm fine, you know, because again, I'm private, and I just had this experience where I shared with people and then it didn't go the way that I expected. So I quickly understood that depression makes you lose friends. Depression shows you who's really there for you and who's not. I had other people that were around a lot, and everyone did what they could or gave what they could given the situation. And I didn't have any real expectations of anybody doing anything specific. I didn't even know what to ask for or what to look for. And I think had the first two people that I told just said, like, this is a lot to handle or a lot to deal with, because it is a lot to deal with, had said that, and it was just like, you know, I want you to get better and right now, but this is a lot for me, I think maybe I would have responded to it different. But again, it was the least of my concern, because at this time I was so heavy in depression that I was just trying to survive. Like, I was in survival mode and just trying to fight through. And it was like I was in a dark hole. There was no light, there was no way out, and I am just aimlessly walking through this dark hole trying to figure out, why am I feeling like this? How do I stop feeling like this? What can I do? Like, this endless loop that I was stuck in. And it definitely swallowed me whole, and definitely made me feel very lonely and very isolated. And I didn't even more want to be around anybody. I didn't want to talk to anybody. If I could have locked myself in a room by myself, I would have. Like, I just wanted to be by myself. And the more that I isolated myself, the worse that I was feeling. But the worse that I was feeling, the more I wanted to isolate myself. And eventually it got to a point where I started to have suicidal ideation. Now, if you don't know what that means, from what I understand, again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist, so don't quote me, but from what I understand, suicidal ideation is when you have the thoughts of suicides, but you don't make a plan. You don't have a plan to do anything. That's what suicidal ideation is. So that's where I was. And at this time, that was so scary for me, because I didn't have a plan, but I had plenty of space and opportunity. And there were definitely, it became like an everyday thing where I was thinking like, well, I could do this or I could do that. And the only thing that saved me from ever attempting anything or making a plan was the fact that my little brother was in the house with me. Now, at the time, the house that we lived in, because I live with my parents and my brother, the house that we lived in, I had my own like part of the house, and my brother was on the other side of the house, but essentially he was still home. And the only thing that kept me sane was I could never do that to my brother. I could never have him walk in and find me gone. Like, I couldn't wrap my head around that. And so I never attempted anything, and I never made a plan. But I knew that at this point, for me to feel this way every single day, I needed help. I wasn't going to be able to do this by myself, and I desperately wanted someone to help me. And so this is when I started to look for therapists. And when I tell you, trying to find a therapist was one of the hardest things to do. When you already don't have the wherewithal to take another breath, trying to call multiple doctors and therapists all day long trying to find a therapist, and everyone's telling you no, is the most nerve-wracking thing, I think, especially when I was having suicidal ideation. Like, this wasn't just, oh, I'm depressed and something's wrong. We have now gotten to a point where I don't want to be here anymore. Why is nobody taking this seriously? Why is nobody trying to help me? And I had one therapist that I called, and she's like, well, I'm not taking any new clients, so good luck finding someone. And it, to me, just felt like, why would you say that in that way to somebody that is trying to get help to stay alive? Like, you took an oath as a psychologist or therapist or whatever to help people. And fine if you're not taking new clients, but the like callous remark and tone of when you say good luck finding someone, like that is just, to me, awful that you would say that to someone who is clinging to life. So I think at that point I was very discouraged. I didn't know what to do because I was trying everything I could to get a therapist and I couldn't find one. And the more I couldn't find one, the longer I just was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here. I can't do this. I'm tired. I'm tired of fighting. I'm trying to fight. I'm trying to stay alive. I can't do this. I don't want to do this. And it was just like a loop of emotions that just never ended. And the hole that I was in just kept getting darker. And I wasn't understanding, how can a black hole get darker? It's already black. But it just kept getting darker and darker and darker. And while I couldn't see any light, I couldn't see any way out, the little bit of hope that I had was I couldn't do this to my brother. He truly saved my life. I don't know if I would have had the strength to fight as long as I did, at least up until the point to get a therapist, the first therapist that I had, if I didn't have him. And I'm so thankful that we have the relationship that we have, and that I love him the way that I do, and that I've always looked at him like he was mine. Like, he's my baby. He's, practically my kid. Like, if we didn't have that relationship, and if I didn't know that he loved me the way that he did, I don't know that I'd still be here right now. But I'm so thankful for him that I am still here today. So we're gonna leave it right here. I know this is like not the best way to leave or end a video, but this got really heavy and it can be a lot to digest, and I also don't want to just breeze over it. So I think we're gonna end it here, and we will pick up in the next episode. For anyone who may be feeling any of the emotions or gone through the things that I expressed in this video, I want you to know that you are not alone. To keep fighting. You will find your way out. And I know that if you're in the space where you feel like there is no way out, hearing me say that probably means absolutely nothing to you, but I promise you, you will find a way out. I have been there. I know what you feel. I know that you cannot wrap your head around finding a way out, but I promise you that there is. So keep fighting and know that you're not alone. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to love yourself and show some love to someone else, because you never know